could I interest you in a whole lot of games that have come out recently or will come out in the near future? Part 4 of this mess is finally here. I ultimately decided to make this one shorter as well due to some issues I think are best explained in the video's outro. So for now, I'll just stop talking and get straight into the demos. Welcome to Strig's Game Café, everyone. Have a cup of Steam Next Fest. How about running your own meatball restaurant? Then try out KuloNiku by Gambir Studio. A cute, low-poly 3D game where you make food for hungry customers and meet other chefs in televised cooking duels. The game is very simple and cozy experience. A customer comes in, you take their order, look at the cookbook to see the recipe, put the noodles and meatballs to boil in the same pot, then put it all in a bowl with some of that soup, put in some extra sauce and seasonings if needed, then serve with either a fork and spoon or chopsticks. You do this 3 times a day, every day, for 40 years, and then you get challenged by another cook to a meatball brawl, which is basically a duo of chefs. Meatball brawls follow similar mechanics from serving regular customers, but cooking is done in turns, which are determined by the number of actions you can make, with you and your opponent swapping whenever you run out of actions. Since the showdown is televised, the crowd is paying attention to what you do in the kitchen, and if you follow their requests, you can get bonus points. Finally, the cooking has a few extra minigames associated with it. For example, you have to place the sauce evenly in your dish, instead of anywhere in the plate like you would typically. To sum it all up, KuloNiku has pretty solid cooking mechanics that you use most of the time, and then expands upon them for the meatball brawls, which I get the impression will be kinda like the boss battles of the game. Finally, the game also has you hanging out with friends you make while running the shop in visual novel style cutscenes. To me, it feels like an interesting way to give you a breather from all the cooking you'll be doing, but I'm not sure how deep these storylines and character development will go. KuloNiku will release in the 3rd quarter of 2025. I have a great find for you cozy game lovers. One that will hopefully lead you to great finds as well. Lost and Found Co. by BitEgg is a hidden object adventure game with one of the most charming art styles I've seen in the genre. The objective of the game is to find objects requested by clients of the titular company, of which our 2 protagonists, Ducky and the goddess May, are the newest employee and boss, respectively. Each request leads you to a stage, and each stage has a number of objects to be found. For example, one stage has you searching for special sweets in a candy shop, and another has you in a quest to find a bunch of different foxes in a forest. There are also a number of side objectives to be completed, such as finding 3 treasure chests in one level, and clicking on a mountain yeti hidden among the trees in another. I really enjoyed completing these side quests, and they all have a number of amusing interactions to accompany them. Speaking of, you also find some events that are just meant to be flavor and nothing else. To be clear, that's hardly a bad thing. It helps bring the world to life and gives you even more things to do when exploring the stages. Finally, each stage has a number of evil spirits disguised in the background. These are known as jujus, and can be identified by their monochrome and glitched appearance. They're not just collectibles, however. Once you collect a juju, you can spend it to get a hint on the location of one of the level's hidden objects. I didn't use that many of them, because I actually forgot and just kept searching the stages. The game actually made me want to look through absolutely all corners of each level, and I would dare say this means everything for a hidden objects game. And if all of that hasn't convinced you cozy game fans, the game also lets you decorate Ducky's room and buy new furniture with coins you earn by beating the stages. So let's sum it up. A cute and cartoony art style, funny dialogue, a simple and non-stressful gameplay, and decoration mechanics. If you're into games with a colorful and relaxed atmosphere, I suggest you give Lost and Found Co. a try when it launches sometime in 2025. If your deal is an action-adventure game in retro Game Boy Color style, then Yacht Club Games, the studio behind Shovel Knight in the slim chance you're not aware, has you covered with Mina the Hollower. Inspired by both Zelda and Castlevania, you'll be playing as Mina, who, as the title implies, is a Hollower. Don't worry, I've spoiler tagged this video just because of this. After receiving a letter from Baron Lionel, Mina travels to the city of Ossex to check on the spark generator she had installed there 10 years prior to the game's story. However, when her boat is approaching Tenebrous Isle, where Ossex is located, it's attacked by a monster, and they end up shipwrecked. You then take control of Mina and have to locate Lionel and figure out what's going on while defending yourself from creatures of the night. To do so, the game gives you 3 options of weapons at the start: a pair of daggers, a hammer, and a morning star. You can try all of them for a little bit, but you have to choose only one for the rest of the game. Given the Castlevania visual inspiration, I thought it fitting to go with the morning star. Speaking of, you also have a bunch of special weapons, or sidearms as the game calls them, that work similarly to Castlevania. By that, I mean they have a limited number of uses which you replenish by collecting blue flasks. Additionally, if you get another sidearm, they replace the previous one. On top of the attacks from your weapon and sidearm, Mina can jump, burrow underground to grab objects to throw, evade enemies and go under walls, as well as use a limited number of heals in Estus flask fashion. There's a unique element to these heals too, as they only restore the portion of your health bar that's yellow, and you can increase that section by hitting enemies. Basically, the more you strike your foes, the more you'll be able to heal. I think it's a really interesting spin, and it rewards the player for being able to play well even after getting hit. You also collect bones from defeated enemies and from the environment itself. These bones work as experience points, and when enough are collected, you level up and have an opportunity to increase your attack, defense, or sidearm power. Much like Souls in a Dark Souls game, you lose your bones if you die. Luckily, level ups also allow you to store them as bone stone, so that doesn't actually happen. Or just not spend them at all, that's an option too. Mina the Hollower combines a bunch of elements in a really solid retro package that's arguably one of the most well-rounded demos I've played in the Next Fest. Takes the exploration of top-down adventure games with a dash of platforming, coupled with Souls-like combat mechanics and leveling system. And all of that with an art style and sound direction that will take you straight to the past. Mina the Hollower releases on October 31st, 2025. If you've paid attention to the indie scene in the past few years, you know that Creature Collector RPGs have received several new members to its club, each full of monsters to tame and do battle with. However, most of these games are either in 3D or in a more, for the lack of better word, modern 2D pixel art style. Monster Crown Sin Eater, on the other hand, has a style that I can only describe as Game Boy RPG meets 90s Dragon Ball Z-like anime. At its core, this game by Studio Aurum is a relatively by-the-book creature collector when it comes to its battle system. You have monsters belonging to different elements, each being stronger or weaker against certain matchups. They can also learn different moves by leveling up, which increases your team's arsenal, inflict or be inflicted by status ailments, and be captured by having their health reduced, followed by the usage of a certain item. The spice of Monster Crown comes from things like the Synergy Bar, which allows you to unleash stronger versions of regular attacks when it's filled up to a certain extent. The monsters also have different reactions to you in the wild. Some will attack, some are indifferent, and some will flee from you. You can also bait wild monsters using certain foods. And while I didn't get to those particular mechanics in the demo, there is a tease of the monsters transforming not when leveling, but by being exposed to certain elements. Plus, the breeding system apparently allows for crossbreeds, resulting in a whole ton of variations. However, I would say the aspect of this game that caught my attention the most was its narrative. Now, this might seem strange to say given the demo states in no uncertain terms that it has no story, being entirely gameplay focused. Even so, you can already see peaks of this universe's lore. For example, things such as the protagonist living right next to a graveyard, the very first town in the game having a shop where people buy and sell monsters, the presence of an entire village that was destroyed by the creatures, this thing you can find in a cave, and this GIF which is a thing in its Steam page. Overall, it's looking like a pretty dark Monster Tamer universe, and I'm all here for it. Now, I do think there's one more thing that needs to be said. See, Monster Crown Sin Eater is actually a sequel to the first Monster Crown game. I did not play that game, but I did see that people were claiming it was quite buggy on the Steam reviews. Now, I won't pretend to know better about the first game because I don't, but I have to say I played almost an hour of Sin Eater and only found one minor bug with a chest that kept respawning. I think it's fair enough to be cautious if you've been inconvenienced by these in the first game, but I want to be clear here and say that as far as the demo goes, I enjoyed my time and didn't have my experience interrupted by any technical issues. So personally, I'm feeling optimistic. Monster Crown Sin Eater's release date is yet to be announced. Here's a game that lets you dive into different dimensions and then sell whatever loot you find in there. Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vault by Digital Sun is the sequel to the first Moonlighter. Full disclosure, I did not play the first, even though I have it in my Steam library. Shut up, stop judging me. The gameplay loop of Moonlighter works like this. First, you go inside a roguelite style dungeon and collect treasures. Then you come out of the dungeon and sell those treasures in your shop. Naturally, you face a lot of enemies in the way. You get different weapons to use in combat, starting with a broom, and then getting the choice between a sword or a pair of gauntlets. All weapons have a regular attack, and a special attack that deals more damage when used in a certain rhythm. 3 weak attacks followed by a strong one. You also get an attack with your backpack to knock enemies away from you, and potentially into other enemies, and a limited use projectile that you can recharge by landing melee strikes. Overall, the combat felt pretty decent as far as isometric roguelites go, though I have to say it felt a bit on the slower side compared to something like Hades. Other than that, you've also got your in-run roguelite upgrades to help carry you through. If you die, you go back outside with your treasures, but they'll get their values cut in half. For the shopkeeping experience, you can display a number of treasures at once, and when your shop is open for business, you can sell them to customers that come in. You can also get more money from each sale by applying buffs to the value of each product. As you get rid of your inventory, you also have to pay attention so the shop is properly cleaned and the items are properly polished. But don't worry, after a number of sales, you get more roguelite style buffs that should help you through the rest of the day's work. One more thing I can't avoid mentioning is the namesake of this sequel, The Endless Vault. It will apparently be a big component of the story and also plays a part mechanically too. In order to access the vault, you need to get more money that it can contain in just a single day. Which is a bit of a strange premise given that the vault is supposed to be endless, but I'm here to recommend, not ask questions. Full disclosure, I could not achieve this goal in the demo. The most I managed was still less than 30% of the required amount. I'm guessing this task will be made easier in the full game with the weapon upgrades and all the things you can presumably get between runs. But for now, this will remain out of my reach. Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vault will launch sometime in 2025. In this next fest, I've played a number of roguelikes and roguelites so far. Some are 2D platformers, some are isometric top-downs, some are even turn-based RPGs. But I think Morbid Metal by Screen Juice might be my first third-person hack-and-slash one so far. You're basically playing as different samurai robots following along different iterations of combat simulations. That's honestly all I could gather from the story of the game, but come on, you're playing as samurai robots fighting large amounts of enemies. What else do you need really? Speaking of combat, you have a basic attack plus 2 abilities with cooldowns, a super that you need to fill a bar for, and the possibility to switch characters on the fly. Plus a double jump, a strange teleport/grappling hook, and a dash that works both from the ground and in the air, and also serves as a dodge that lets you counterattack with timed right. Morbid Metal has one of the flashiest combat systems I've seen on the Next Fest, and the upgrades you get also offered quite a bit of variety. One thing I found interesting was that some of them were tied to specific characters, meaning you're essentially building 4 characters at once. Well, 2 in the demo since it only has 2 characters. Still, I do think the buffs for these kinds of upgrades need to feel really significant, since you're basically sacrificing a chance to strengthen your other characters in favor of just one. In the end, I found myself using mostly just one of the characters, Flux. Maybe I'd feel more incentivized to keep switching if there were more enemies that were clearly weaker against Eku and his giant cleaver, or if I gained a short power up every time I switched, with said power up then going on cooldown after a bit. Dunno, just a thought. When it comes to the mobility options outside of the dash, I felt like both the double jump and the grappling hook were barely used at all. I really wish there were more platforming segments in the runs, like the tutorial section, because that felt really fun. There's definitely a sense of speed you get from moving around, and it's really good, but you barely spend any time with it. And maybe the hook/teleport could be used against certain enemies as a counter or a way to remove shields. Morbid Metal definitely has some potential, even if I wanted the game to do more with a few of its mechanics. It's got fine movement, responsive combat, and a tight roguelite game loop. Plus, and I think it bears repeating, you're playing as samurai robots in an endless combat simulation against endless waves of enemies. If that's not a concept that's good on principle, I don't know what is. Morbid Metal's release date is set to coming soon. Would you like some cheese? Or maybe a burger? Too bad. All you've got is the tiniest of morsels. Morsels is a creature collector roguelike developed by Furcula with an art style that I can only describe as appetizing. It actually really reminds me of Lumpy Touch for some reason. Believe it or not, there is some lore to this oddity. Apparently some cards containing creatures of unimaginable power, the titular Morsels, fell from the sky one day, and the strongest ones were captured by a group of cats, who now rule the world with an iron fist. You play as this tiny mouse who must now ascend from the sewers after finding one of these cards and learning how to transform. All of this is explained to you first thing when you start a new save, mind you. After hugging your friend with a face only a mother could love, you start your runs by picking one of 2 morsels. The controls are a little bit strange. I did use a gamepad as I do for most roguelikes, with both morsels shooting in the direction of the button you press. So for a PlayStation controller, that's X to shoot down, triangle to shoot up, and so on. The shots are different for each morsel too, and you also have a special that can be triggered when your bar is full. One of the starter morsels shoots a bunch of projectiles in a circle, the other gives you a shield. You also have a dodge roll button, and another button dedicated for using temporary power-ups you collect, such as invincibility. One thing I found interesting is that the floors you move through in your run also have tiny side quests in them, like guiding this guy over here to the ladder leading to the next floor, and also this ticket that I'm 90% sure is meant to be taken to this bus over here. One thing to keep in mind though, is that you can't attack when carrying an item over your head. Keep that in mind for when you have a bunch of rats shooting at you with machine guns. In between each floor of the sewers, you also have a few interesting encounters that can lead to rewards, like these talking trash bags that give you an item, this big rat that forces you into a combat encounter, with the reward being better the more enemies you face, or this fast food thing that presumably gives you a reward for delivering a burger on time. Along your run, not only can you get upgrades and evolve your current morsel, but you can also obtain new morsels and change them on the fly. In the end, Morsels is a really strange but fun mix of genres, and I'll admit that although I died pretty early in all my runs and never got far, I was immediately hooked, and before I realized, I was just immediately going for new runs whenever one ended, which is a good sign for a roguelike. Morsels will release sometime in 2025. Ah, the good old days of playing card games and trading stickers in school. That's exactly the kind of vibe you get with My Card is Better Than Your Card by Utu Studios. My Card is Better Than Your Card, which for the sake of brevity I'll refer to as just My Card from now on, is a roguelike deck builder where you make cards using stickers and then use those cards to battle your fellow playground kids. A run consists of a number of days. You start by defining a routine. You can visit sticker shops, trade stickers and cards with other kids, and by the end of the day, you craft a new card to use in your following battles. Now, the effects of cards are defined by all the stickers on them. For example, a cat sticker will forcibly discard the opponent's next played card. As far as I can tell, there are no limits to how many stickers you can stuff into a card, but each sticker increases the cost of playing the card, so it balances out pretty well. This also means that every card is highly customizable, and you can stack different effects that shouldn't go together in most other card games. So how do you actually play My Card? Well, you draw cards and then show them to your opponent. The more impressive the card is, the more stars you get. After both you and your opponent play, whoever accumulated more stars that turn beats the other, and the faith bar on top gets tipped to the side of the winner by the difference between their stars. Once the faith bar gets fully tipped to either side, the game is over. An interesting aspect of this is you don't have to actually try and match your opponent's stars every turn. In fact, sometimes it pays off to hold onto your best cards until the time is right. Oh shit. Though, to be clear, just because it's possible doesn't mean it works every time. Once the battle is over, you get coins, which you can then use in the aforementioned sticker and card shops. You then craft a new card, and the cycle repeats until the end of the week, where you face a stronger opponent. My Card is a simple card game on the surface, but there's a surprising amount of depth and customization to it. And even though I felt like I had the hang of it pretty quickly, the late run matches proved I still had a way to go. I guess there's always a cooler kid in the playground. I mean, listen to that card duo music. My Card is Better Than Your Card releases in the last quarter of 2025. Hey, it's me. I have a game to recommend you.
Let me in.
No, I'm Not a Human is a narrative horror game by Trioscaz, where a calamity involving the sun forces people to stay inside during the day to avoid exposure. Instead, everyone comes out at night. On its own, that would already be terrifying enough, but to make things even worse, there are now a bunch of beings called visitors walking around, pretending to be human and killing people who let them into their homes, or straight up breaking in if they are alone. The game begins with you receiving a visit from your neighbor, who explains all of this to you. After the first night, a bunch of people will knock on your door. It's up to you if you let them in or not. They could be a harmless civilian who can give you some interesting information. Or they could be a visitor who will murder you and your companions in your sleep. It's like Russian roulette, but with people. Don't despair though. There are ways to tell who's human and who is not. You receive this information over the course of the days, and before the next night comes, you have some time to test the guests staying at your rooms. Luckily, the visitors actually have plenty of tells, so if the person next to you shows 2 or more signs, well... Interrogating your guests will drain your energy, however, meaning you can only do it a number of times each day, though just talking to them is still free. This kinda means you shouldn't take in a lot of new guests at once, or you might not be able to test them properly. If, on the other hand, you have energy to spare, just go drink a beer, go to sleep, and wait for the horrors of the night to arrive. No, I'm Not a Human is a very atmospheric game where you simultaneously feel like you're in control, and also that you have no control at all. Even with tests, guaranteeing that the people you let in are human felt like a luck-based ordeal. It almost gives the game a roguelike feel, even though that's not its genre. It's also tagged as Choices Matter and multiple endings on Steam, so I'm fully expecting your particular selection of roommates will greatly impact how you survive through the solar apocalypse. No, I'm Not a Human will release in the 3rd quarter of 2025. If you're a fan of twin-stick shooters and want to explore outer space while doing missions and fighting off bizarre alien forces, then No Way Home by SMG Studio, the same people behind Moving Out by the way, is a game I'd recommend. First of all, can I talk about what happened in the intro? I want to talk about the intro.
Ahoy, passengers! The soft-serve refrigeration unit has malfunctioned. We apologize for any inconvenience caused during your space vacation.
Yeah, this intro pretty much sets the comedic tone for the game. You play as Cho, a space pilot who is very competent and not underqualified at all for her job. After the accident at the start of the game, she's stranded far from Earth in an unknown galaxy. She now has to find her way home with the help of her unreliable assistant Matey. Oh, and both of them are fully voice acted.
Ahoy! Prepare for mandatory in-flight training.
Matey, turn off the holovision! I can't see where I'm going in real space!
To find your way home, you travel through space searching for side quests and clues on your path to Earth. You start with no money and a weak ship, which is part of the reason why you become a space freelancer. The map is also huge, and it pays off to explore every corner of the vast outer space to find treasure chests and other secrets. By completing jobs and collecting ship parts in a totally safe, legal, and pacific ways that do not at all involve space shootouts with pirates, you can upgrade your ship at a garage led by an old cosmic horror. That wasn't an insult, by the way, she's literally a retired cosmic horror who pretty much decided to settle down and work as a mechanic. Upgrades include not only your gun, but also your shields, reactor, and other modifications. You can also give a gun to Matey so he'll help out in combat. Not bad for your tutorial sidekick, huh? In my experience with the demo, even if Matey doesn't deal a lot of damage, he can draw enemy aggro pretty well, and doesn't die that easily. Outside your gun, wouldn't be a twin-stick shooter if you didn't have one, Cho's ship also has a grappling hook which you can use to grab meteorites. I kinda wish it had better uses aside from unblocking your way, and this one minigame though. Speaking of, I got to experience a space arcade that lets you play minigames, all of which use No Way Home zone mechanics, like the aforementioned ball game where you grab the ball with your hook to lead it into the goal. Overall, they're pretty fun, and they also unlock skins for the ship so you can loot and shoot in style. No Way Home is already out. So that's it. 10 more Steam Next Fest demos I've looked at. Now, I need to explain something. Remember when I said last time that I thought I could handle the remaining demos with just this one more video? Well, unfortunately that didn't happen. See, originally both this video and part 3 were gonna be one and the same, with the length of the video being closer to part 2. But a lot happened along the way and I did not have enough time to put everything on part 3, so I split it in 2. However, this meant I had to post another video sooner than expected. I could have included some more demos in here, but that would mean part 4 would take longer to come out. Here's what I ultimately decided to do. As you can clearly see from this video, I decided to put part 4 up as it was, and then use the increased time I have now to make an extra video that's longer than parts 3 and 4. So yes, this means you're getting a part 5 so I can round up the rest of the demos. I'm trying to get this done as soon as I can too. Now, make no mistake, I'm still very much enjoying playing through these demos. I just wish the process of making these videos hadn't been so chaotic for me. Hopefully by the next fest, I'll have found a better way to organize things. With all of this said, I do hope you also find some enjoyment in checking out these demos and full games. And once more, for their developers, best of luck. My name is Strig, and thank you for your patronage. If you're leaving already, please consider leaving a tip in the form of a comment and a like. And if you're interested in coming back, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell on your way out. Thank you for visiting Strig's Game Café.